Is this the Dick's final form? Today we'll be doing a Lost World deck profile by High Demand. So, shout out to my little Pookie. Today I'll be teaching you how to be the most disgusting player on the field. So here we go. So first up, you're gonna be running 3 copies of the Vanity Revolve Destroyer, which is the one in the Ragnarok set. So this card's ability is, it cannot be destroyed and rested by opponent's card's effect, and when this card attacks, choose up 2 cards on the opponent's field, drop also, and put the chosen cards to the drop zone with penetrate. And if this card's on the field, so if the original Vanity has Destroyer, your opponent cannot gain any life. So we will be playing 3 copies of him, as he is a very important part of this deck profile. So next up, we are playing only just 1 copy of the Vile Demonic Deity Dragon Vanity Epic Destroyer. So this is one of the field removal cards for this Lost World deck. So when a Lost World monster is put in front of your field into the drop zone, you pay 2 gauge, and this card count on the field cannot be destroyed by opponent's card's effects. When this card into the field, choose up the 2 cards on your opponent's field, drop all souls from the chosen cards, and put the chosen cards into the drop zone. With a double attack, it's a really strong field remover for your opponent. Next up, we play just 1 copy of the Revival Buddy edition of Vanity Epic Destroyer. The only difference of this version of Epoch is, when this card into the field, choose up to only 1 card on the opponent's field, and for this turn the chosen card cannot remain on the field, and put the chosen card into the drop zone. So so the difference between these two are basically, this one cannot remain on the field, while this can be remain on the field by card's effects. So for, let's say, if you call this and your opponent casts Grace of the Sun Deity, this will not remove it at all. So for this, but however, when you call this and your opponent casts Grace of the Sun Deity, if you attack the chosen card physically, it will not remain on the field because of this last text at the bottom. So just keep that in mind. So we play this just to remove 2 cards on your opponent's field, and this to make sure 1 card disappears when you physically attack it. So just keep that in mind. Next up we have is White Flame, Blood Eye, Passion Eyes. So this is your so-called defense for this deck if your beatdown doesn't go anywhere. So this card is basically, put up 3 cards from your drop zone into its soul and pay 2 gauge, and it's basically a more overpowered version of Bloody Eyes, and this is from the Ragnarok set too. So during your attack phase, during your opponent's attack phase, if there are no cards in battle, choose any number of stand monsters on your opponent's field and attack this card with the chosen monsters. So you can choose like all 3 cards in your opponent's field and just to attack this, and it will nullify all the abilities of the attacking monsters and items, and it will counter attack all of them. And this card's counter attack destroys all attacking monsters with defense less than this card's power, in which case it is 13,000. So we play only 2 copies of Passion Eyes. Next up is, we play a card that is really good in combo with the Vanity Revolve Destroyer, which is the Lost Underrax Agito, which is at the start of your attack phase. For this turn, all Lost Vader on your field gets triple attack. So what you do is, you basically have a single Agito on the field and at least 2 Vanity Revolve Destroyers on the field. And what this does is it gives every single Lost Vader on the field triple attack, in which case it's really strong for this Vanity House Destroyer, because when this card attacks, choose 2 cards and drop all souls. So again, it's a really good combo together. So in the end, we play only 2 copies of Lost Agito. Next up, we just play 1 copy of Aquinas Dogma. This is your so-called Epoch Activator. So let's say, for example, you have a Lost Vader on the field, you have a Epoch in your hand, you have 2 gauge. So what this does is, at the start of your main phase, if this card's in your drop zone, you may pay 1 life, put this card from the drop zone to your hand, and during each player's attack phase, call this card from your hand. So what you do is, once you're done attacking with all your monsters on the field, what you do is you call this on top of your Vanity or whatever Lost Vader you have, and it fulfills this call cost, which when a lost monster is put from your field to a drop zone, you pay 2 gauge, and you call this to remove whatever they have on the field or that you want to remove. So this is a really good activator card for your Epoch Destroyer. So we just play only 1 copy of it. Next up, we just play only 1 copy of Alaro de Rally, which is, this is basically just in case if you just not happen to get any of your other Lost Vaders out, you just have 1 more lifeline, or this can be used as a control, just in case if you can't finish your opponent off. It's also a really good card to combo with the Lost Thunder X Agito. So it gives it triple attack instead of the usual double attack. So what this does is, when at the end of this battle that this card is attacked, you either charge 1 gauge, gain 1, or draw 1, or drop one of your opponent's gauge, deal 1 damage, and your opponent chooses and drop a hand card. So again, it's a really good unit. So you can choose whether if you want to play 1 or 2, but for this deck profile, we're only going to play just 1 copy. Next up, moving to the spells, we're going to be playing 3 of Dimension Draw. This is your so-called main draw engine for Lost World. So what this does is basically just draw 3 cards and drop 2 hand cards. A really simple and free draw engine for the Lost World deck. So what we do is we play 3 of it, so we can guarantee to draw into our Lost Vaders. Next up, we play 2 copies of Invasion from the Deep and Vile. So this is a filter card for the Lost World deck. So the only requirement that this card needs is just a Lost Vader on the field, whereas Dimension Draw does not need any requirements. So once you cast your Dimension Draw, you may call any Lost Vader and you can just filter through your entire Lost World deck. So what this does is basically a Agonia. So it's just look the top 4 of your cards of the deck, put 2 of them into your hand and the rest to the gauge. And it's a very, again, simple spell. So we play just 2 copies of Invasion from the Deep and Vile. Next up, we play 2 copies of Battle of Valiant. It's again a very simple card. It has no requirements at all. Just counter, draw 2 cards. You can cast it in your attack phase, main phase, or final phase. It's up to you. Then you can gain 1 life for each different Lost Vaders on your field. Again, a very simple draw spell in Lost World. So we play 2 copies of Battle of Valiant. Next up is I'd say it's a really important card in Lost World, especially for today's meta. And it would be Day of Devastation. So this is basically your field protection. So for this turn, all cards on your field cannot be destroyed, returned to the hand, nor their abilities cannot be nullified by opponent's card effects. So this card is really important if you want to keep your Lost Vaders on your field. So let's first say Vanity Revolve Destroyer, right? He cannot be destroyed nor rest by opponent's card's effect. However, he can be returned by opponent's card's effects. So in order to prevent that, you cast this, which prevents all cards on your field to not allowed to be destroyed, return to hand, and their abilities cannot be nullified. So again, it's a really good card for Lost World, just in case if your opponent ever wants to return your Lost Raiders or destroy them or rest them to your hand. This is a really good card for the deck. So we play 3 copies of Day of Devastation. Next up, we play 3 copies of Dimension Ruin. This is your drop zone fetcher or your really offensive card. So what this card does is you just put a monster from your drop zone to your hand, or you choose a Lost Vader on your field, and for this turn, the battle that it attacks alone, your opponent cannot cast any counter. So again, this is a really good spell for you to, just in case if you want to fetch back whatever monster you want from the drop zone, depending on what deck you're playing, you can fetch back any, or you can choose your Vanity Revolve Destroyer. So when you're in combo together with the Lost Agito, you can just cast this on, and you can choose your Vanity Revolve Destroyer, so when it attacks alone, your opponent cannot counter. So it's in combo together with the Day of Devastation. It cannot be destroyed, cannot be returned, cannot be rested by opponent's card's effect. So and it has an inbuilt cannot be rested by opponent's card's effects. So it's basically almost impossible to defend against this. So yeah, it's a really good and important card for the current Lost World decks. So we play 3 copies of Dimension Ruin. Next up, we play 2 copies of Dimension Cruelty. This is your Gauge Earner or Restand, Rest, or drop 2 souls from a card from an opponent's field. So basically, you have tons of options for this card, and the good thing about this card is that it's not once per turn. So you can charge 3 gauge, restand a card on your field, rest a card on your opponent's field. It can be used as an offensive and a defensive card too at the same time. So we play 2 copies of Dimension Cruelty. Next up, we play 2 copies of Dimension Denial, which is your generic spell now for Lost World. No requirements, just requires when opponent casts a spell, you just nullify the spell cast by your opponent. It's a really simple card. So yeah, we play 2 copies of Dimension Denial. Next up, we just play only 1 copy of the Vile Demonic Particles Lostless Hazer. This is your item for Lost World. There is another item called the Lostless Wall. I would much prefer to run that rather than this, because the Lostless Wall is basically a control card, so where your opponent can't call cards by card effects. But however, this is your offense card, which is this card can be destroyed nor leave the field by opponent's card's effect. And this card can even attack if you have a monster in your center with penetrate and triple attack with a critical of 3. So it's again a really strong beatdown card. So we just play only 1 copy of the Lostless Hazer. And for the last card, we just play 1 copy of the Vanity Zero Blazer, which is the 3 gauge, deal 10 damage to your opponent. And again, it's a really strong card. If your opponent doesn't have any Grace of the Sun Deity in your hand, yes, it is a really strong card to play. So if your opponent has 10 life, you just just in case if you couldn't finish them off with the combo of the Revolve and the Lost Agito, you can cast this just in case if they cast a spell such as Buddy Block or whatever. So this is my Lost World deck on how would I run it for the current meta in Buddyfight. So if you have any comments you want to leave or anything you want to share about the Lost World deck, just feel free to put it down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next deck profile.